pleasant, good Sunday to everybody out there. We have been having a lot of delays in our programs, primarily because of the way we would like to present this daily program on the Prosperity Channel. In fact, there are several sponsors already that we're talking to make sure that our video will be all over the United States, Canada, Mexico, and of course in Asia, starting in Japan, the Philippines, which I originally am from, Thailand, Singapore, and other countries. So ladies and gentlemen, let me get to the bottom of our much delayed proposals. I'm referring to the proposal to President Trump to make sure that the confusion about the deficit will finally end. I'm referring to, of course, the reason why Elon Musk bolted out of the warm circle of the president, because he felt that there is no clear path to reducing the $37 trillion deficit that was done previously by other administrations. And again, to add more confusion, the reason why Elon Musk clearly stated that the current big beautiful budget is not going to work is precisely because there is no effort on the part of President Trump's government to reduce the budget. The first $1 trillion is the most difficult. Once the system is agreed upon, then the succeeding trillions of dollars will happen. For example, if the economy will grow by about 4 to 5% gross national product, there should be another budget focusing on precisely reducing or paying off that first $1 trillion deficit. And this is where all the confusion lies, because the way Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent stated the way to do this was truly on macro levels of economic discussion. It was not clearly stated by the good secretary on when the budget will be reduced. And that is why Elon Musk believes that it would be best that he forms his own party, which, by the way, he calls the America Party. And Bannon clearly stated just a while ago that it's not going to work because he's not even a natural-born citizen of this country. But that is, of course, all on speculative discussions on what's going to happen next with the America Party. Because it is very clear on my proposal with the president that the budget can be reduced. The budget can be reduced by precisely growing the economy by making sure all the commitments, which I think is already on the $10 trillion level, this is guaranteed, ladies and gentlemen. The fake news are all saying that Goldman Sachs says that the net effect is only less than 1 trillion. In fact, only about 800 billion, or even less than that. So there's a lot of fake news going on around the internet, but it is very, very clear that the commitments during the last 6 months has reached over 10 trillion US dollars, where the investors will be manufacturing their products in America, that most of them will be relocating back from China and other parts of the world to the United States. So, regarding the Elon Musk, the America Party, ladies and gentlemen, this is a very clear case of another Ross Perot in the making. But don't get me wrong, there are probably tracking right now from 1 to 1.2 million Americans that will join Elon Musk's The America Party. And based on the trending analysis that we have done on a per state basis, this 1.2 trillion will reach to about 2 trillion in less than 3 years, in time for the presidential elections. Will it succeed? You know, based on historical evidence, it will not. Because America, the Americans have always relied on either becoming a Democrat, which is the blue states, or a Republican, which is the red states. It will take a Herculean effort on the part of Elon Musk to make it the party to beat either the Democrats or the Republicans. It will take more than 3 years. In fact, it might take more than 10 years. That is our prediction, because of the current system that the Democrats have already been very comfortable, and more importantly, right now, the ruling party, which is the Republican Party, the party members are very comfortable. Majority of them, the estimate is about 80% to 95% are very comfortable with how things are as far as the GOP is concerned. So let me get down to the probability of success of whether Elon Musk will succeed or not. And based on what happened to Ross Perot, there were initial likings towards the party of Ross Perot, but ultimately it fizzled out. And that's exactly what's going to happen with the America Party. That is our fearless forecast. However, don't get me wrong, if Elon Musk will come out with something really strong that will result into making the lives of middle-class America more prosperous, then we are talking about a bigger number, probably double than 2 million, but 4 million will join the party of Elon Musk, which is now called as the America Party. Now, moving forward to the proposals we already have, by the way, we just don't want to send it right now to the president, because we know for a fact that it will be stolen again, 100%. So we are collating all the data, and we will be requesting an audience with President Trump, an audience with Vice President J.D. Vance, an audience with Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and an audience with Secretary Noem, the Department of Homeland Security, and the list goes on. But basically, these are the initiatives that is being done right now here in the great state of Oklahoma, the Champion City. And we are very confident that we can deliver, number one, the $1 trillion deficit to be reduced as soon as possible. Number two, the peace between Russia and Ukraine. And the reason for this is because it is very clear that Russia is already believing our proposal a year ago, or more than a year ago, that assuming Ukraine will surrender, what will happen now? The humongous effort to rebuild Ukraine is simply impossible in the next 5 to 10 years. Impossible. Without the support of the United States of America and its European allies. Without that, Ukraine will be a huge burden to Russia and might even result into an endless economic recession of Russia in the next 10 years. And therefore, as you know, what is happening right now is Russia is simply just digging its own grave. When I say digging its own grave, it will be an endless recession for Russia in the next 10 years if they do not stop. There's 2 million already dead, by the way, that is guaranteed. That is the conservative estimate. 2 million have died. These are soldiers, women, men, babies, etc. Professionals, doctors who died in this current war between Russia and Ukraine. So again, what I'm trying to say is that if this war will continue, it will be simply through the detriment and ultimately the collapse of Russia, because they do not have any resources left. And the people of Russia see the logic of stopping the war for America to rebuild Ukraine, because Ukraine is nothing anymore. They attacked Ukraine for the minerals. Of course, they will get some of the minerals, but at the expense of what? You gain all the minerals, but you have to throw it back by rebuilding back energy, electrification, waterways, and the list goes on. Not to mention that most of the Ukrainians and the Russians are very demoralized right now. The motivation factor is so important in a great economy. And as I said, it is very clear in the mind of President Vladimir Putin that he should not have attacked Ukraine in the first place and get all of this headache in the name of expanding the sovereignty of Russia. Because a blunder is a blunder. The only way to correct the blunder is to stop the endless mistakes. And at the end of the day, the question is, will Russia get Ukraine? And the answer is no, because of the European allied forces behind Ukraine. Because they know for a fact that once Russia is able to invade Ukraine completely, then this will continue to other European countries, which obviously the nations of France, Poland, Great Britain, the Netherlands, and the list goes on, will not give an inch to Russia. So it is for the best interest of Russia to follow the peace plan of President Trump and Secretary Marco Rubio and Secretary Pete Hegseth. It is for their best interest for the short and, more importantly, the long run. Because after this war, ladies and gentlemen, the big question mark right now is who wants to deal with Russia? And the answer is very clear. Only a few nations, namely Belarus, and probably that's about it. And of course, China and North Korea. But China right now is also having its economic issues. And we don't want to tell this on the air, but there is a movement right now on the issue as far as not buying Chinese-made products. And that's why there is a big problem in the Philippines, because President Duterte, the former president, was the guy behind in making China look strong right now. In fact, well, in fairness, during the time of President Aquino, President Benigno Noynoy Aquino, the Chinese attacked the West Philippine Sea. And on July 12, 2016, there was a declaration on the Hague International Rule of Law that what China did was an attempt to invade the Philippines, starting in the West Philippine Sea. That's why when Senator Tol Tolentino came out very strong statements against China, he was banned to enter the People's Republic of China. All in the name of freedom of speech. Because we are already, ladies and gentlemen, 9 long years since July 12, 2016, that there was an attempt by the People's Republic of China to invade the Philippines, starting in the West Philippine Sea. And this was exacerbated during the presidential tenure of a very, very popular, in fact, he's the most popular president still right now, by the name of President Rodrigo Digong Duterte. And to tell you how strong he is, the daughter, the vice president of the Philippines right now, Sara Duterte, is definitely the front runner to become the next president of the Philippines. And so it is a big issue in the Philippines right now to take that initiative in order for the Chinese forces to withdraw in the West Philippine Sea. And this can only be done if President Bongbong Marcos can team up with President Sara Duterte and her father, the former president, Digong Duterte, to fly to Beijing and to finally say, let's come out with a very peaceful deal by starting for the withdrawal of all Chinese forces, all Chinese Air Force and military forces, which are already based in the West Philippine Sea. I already talked with so many Filipino expatriates right now here in the United States, and I was telling them that if China will insist for the last 9 years on doing that, it is only but smart for the Filipinos to stop buying Chinese products. Because the more they buy Chinese-made products, the more they will be supporting the invasion of the Filipino nation starting in the Visayan region. So the more money you put to the Chinese economy, the more the People's Republic of China will be emboldened to attack, invade the Philippines anytime soon. And it is very clear that there is a nationalist fervor right now going in the Philippines, starting with the good senator, well, now former Senator Tol Tolentino, who is about to relinquish his being a senator. And he was very bold to attack the People's Republic of China, which China retaliated just recently by banning him not to go to China or any of its territories like Hong Kong, Macau, and the rest. So things are getting worse. For the last 9 years, 9 years, almost 10, 9 years, the Philippine government has been futile in removing the Chinese military forces in the West Philippine Seas. And the only way to do this, as I said, time and time again, is to hire professionals like me who know the Chinese thinking in order to stop this endless discussion that has been really zero results for the last 9 years. The way to do this is to have a very, very long-lasting budget to consistently to fly to Beijing and tell them, hey guys, you have made your point. We can do a probable joint exploration of oil on the West Philippine Seas, which is all speculative, by the way. We still don't know if there is truly oil there, because it might end up in another big hoax. Because oil exploration is one of the most riskiest business in the world. Very speculative, and they say it's always rosy, you know. Even in the United States of America, it's always rosy that all of this oil will gush forth. But at the end of the day, there is a limit to this so-called endless oil. So I'd like to end our very short video because, as I told you, I have already made my signals to Washington, D.C. that we are very confident to solve the deficit issue, to solve the peace stalemate between Russia and Ukraine, because we believe that it can be done as soon as possible. Now, with regards to the Israel-Hamas conflict, as I said, we can only contain that. That is going to become an endless issue. I will not even dare or attempt to handle that particular problem, because it is a never-ending crisis. And right now, it is on a stalemate too, and it's better that way. because it is very clear that any bold movements on the part of Iran that will result into American bloodshed will result into the destruction of Tehran, Iran. And the Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini knows about that. And the only way to stop the American attack together with its allied forces is to assure the American government that the continuing of creating nuclear missiles and other nuclear weapons will stop effective immediately. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to, as a closing, I'd like to request all my sponsors to give me a call at my US cell phone number, 405-503-8511, so we could make your products and services very famous in the 50 states and some trust territories of the United States, because not all trust territories in the US are doing well right now. But most of the 50 states are gearing towards one of the biggest economic boom of prosperity in the history of America. And that will happen. And as I predicted, it will happen until September 29, 2029. So there will be a 4 years of endless streak of prosperity in America, and all because of the very strong leadership of President Trump. Able, strong, and the ability to deliver big prosperity numbers for the American families. So again, I'd like to congratulate the President and his Vice President, one of the greatest teams right now in the history of America, because they are gelling pretty well, and it has made the American investor very, very confident that the prediction of Secretary Bessent will happen, despite unfortunately, the friction between the President and Fed Chairman Jerome Powell. But I think the Fed Chairman has seen the light. There are some indications that in order to immediately jumpstart this boom economy, there are certain signals that the Fed Chairman might be willing finally to at least lower down that rate by a full point before his term ends, and to make him at least have a very stylish exit with his tenure as Fed Chairman by the end of 2025. So, ladies and gentlemen, my viewers, please give me a like and subscribe at my YouTube channel, and you can email me anytime at superdeals1494@gmail.com in order to be able to get some of the prosperity you can achieve by investing in America and doing business here. Because now is the best time to make that bold move. It will be too late if you were to do that in the next 4 to 6 months. Now is the best time. So, I'd like to thank you again for joining this YouTube video at the Prosperity Channel at Gavin Bautista, at Gavin Bautista, latest updates 91.com. Good night, and have a prosperous day, a prosperous month of July ahead of you. Thank you, and good night.